This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls? Start saving thousands in interest and fees and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect just to admit a mistake. We're paying off election.
Keep on doing what you do, Rick. You're my favorite host.
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks, well, happy Wednesday evening. That's right, we're halfway through the work week. It is hump day, and I do have a very special guest with me tonight who will be coming on here in just one moment. Before we get started, though, I want to give a quick shout-out to the conservative curmudgeon who had me on his show earlier today with a mutual friend of ours that we hang out with on Twitter who does a radio show of his own. I think they are wrapping up right about now, or they may even be into their extended hour. Half the time, you never know when those guys are going to quit. All right, but this is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We're live right here tonight on K98 Talk and around the world on several other affiliates that you'll be hearing this tomorrow. I do have Mr. Nicholas Sarwark with us, the head of the Libertarian Party, and we're bringing him back today to discuss some new events going on with the Libertarian Party, some changes that maybe you're not hearing about in the media because everybody's talking about all Hillary and all Trump all the time. Even me, mostly, so I decided it was time to make a change. Good evening, Mr. Sarwark. How are you? Welcome back, sir.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
You are welcome anytime. All right, so before we went live, you were telling me about a few things that have, that you've been involved in recently as the head of the Libertarian. What exactly is your named position again? Because I think you guys say it a little bit differently than everybody else does.
You know, I'm chair of the Libertarian National Committee, but really that just means I'm the chairman of the Libertarian Party. So
I just wanted to make sure I said it right. So. All right, so you are the chair of the Libertarian National Committee, otherwise known as the chair of the Libertarian Party, and you had mentioned that you had been kind of doing some stuff with, was it national level candidates or local level candidates that you were talking about the press conferences for, or both?
In the last couple of weeks, I have been all over the place. I was at Freedom Fest in Las Vegas, doing a panel with Governor Johnson and Governor Bill Weld, the vice presidential nominee, and Matt Welch from Reason on the main stage. After I got back from that, I was in L.A. this last weekend for a fundraiser at Drew Carey's house for Governor Johnson, with a bunch of celebrities and people wanting to back the campaign. And then on Monday, I flew up to Salt Lake City because State Senator Mark Madsen in Utah, who was a delegate to the Republican National Convention, came back and held a press conference announcing that he was switching from being a Republican to being a Libertarian and endorsing Governor Johnson. which adds him to a growing club along with Senator Laura Ebke from Nebraska, Assemblyman John Moore from Nevada. There were 2 state assembly or state delegate people in Montana who just endorsed Governor Johnson. Representative Max Abramson in New Hampshire switched to the Libertarian Party and is actually running as a Libertarian on the ticket for governor. So there's this tidal wave that's starting of people realizing that the party that they had joined is no longer what it used to be, and that their ideals are being held up by the Libertarian Party, and so they're contacting me and, doing what they have to do to switch, and it's a good time.
I've noticed there does seem to be a lot of momentum behind the Libertarian Party as a whole this year, and I think a lot of that is because, like me, I've been a holdout for a while. I've had friends that were libertarians, and they kept telling me just how bad everything had gotten, and I still had my blinders on, and I was still dutifully picking up the red banner and marching off to war. And this was that line for me. There's a term they use in battle. There's a line that they would always call. It was named after a river. It was Rubicon, which was kind of the point of no return. For me, the GOP had reached that point this year. I know for some folks it happened a lot earlier. For me, it was definitely this year. And the recent Republican National Convention just solidified that for me, because I was watching so many things that I never thought I would see happen inside of a room full of supposed conservatives. We had Democrats that are Democratic talking points, Democratic planks being used. We had someone who stood up and outlined a lot of the things that the GOP used to stand for that was actually booed off the stage, and that was all orchestrated by the guy that was nominated. So, I heard of people that were throwing down their press credentials because they had tried to do the roll call vote to try to override Trump's nomination, and that was quashed, and there were people that were like, I'm never doing this again. They threw down their credentials, they walked out. And the Democratic convention isn't any better this year. They're in complete disarray in all facets. Everybody is upset. And I don't know what else it's going to take, because for the first time that I can ever remember this happening, we have a growing number of people that don't want either one of the front runners, but they're still not willing to make a third choice. If you talk to everybody, there's only 2 choices. There's only 2 choices. There's only 2 choices. Our elections haven't been binary since they were started. So I don't understand why everybody thinks there are only 2 choices. I know in some states there's 18 choices for president on the ballot, most of whom we don't even know who they are that they're there.
Yeah, it's the reason that the old parties push this idea that there's only 2 choices is that the choices that they're presenting are bad. And so they don't want you to pick the other option. Kind of like, Chris Christie said that you have to pick chicken or fish. What we're saying to the American people is, order the steak. They may not want to tell you it's on the menu, but it's there, and it's much better. Just get the steak. Don't settle for chicken or fish. The fish is kind of not sure exactly how fresh it is, and the chicken's kind of dry. So, just go with the steak. Insist on the steak. Tell them you want the steak. You're not taking chicken or fish. This election, more so than any other I can think of, the way I look at it, I take off my party chair hat for a minute, and I just put on my, hey, I'm an American citizen. Who cares about my country? We have a job interview right now that's going on for arguably the most important job in the country, the job of being president. You're looking at the resumes for the 3 candidates who got a call back. The last 3 candidates, the ones you're going to have to pick one of them to hire. And, to make sure that you don't let your bias get into it, you should strip off the names and strip off the party affiliations and just look at who these people are and what they've done. And if you do that, you'll make the right choice for your country and for your children. You move beyond party labels and beyond personalities and kind of make the right choice. And I encourage everybody to go and to take a look at the qualifications of these 3 final candidates. You've got, a reality show star who is very good at self-promotion, have a lackluster Secretary of State who's not very good at using email, and you have a successful two-term governor of New Mexico who was elected as a Republican in a heavily Democratic state, who governed in a way that he vetoed more bills than any other governor combined, all of the other governors combined, rather, and he got reelected by an overwhelming margin in that same state when voter registration was definitely lined up against him, because the people in New Mexico didn't look at party label. What they looked at was, this was a guy who did what he said he was going to do, who was able to bring people together, who was able to, veto bad bills, pass good ones, and do the job of being a chief executive with people that didn't necessarily agree with him, with people who weren't necessarily part of his party. And I can't think of anybody more qualified to run a country that's as divided as we are than somebody who's shown that they have the experience to do it. So it's not a matter of, pick my party because my party's better. It's a matter of pick the best person for the job. Pick the best person for your country. Your vote's not a bet unless you have a bookie who's going to pay out if, you pick the winner. Your vote is a statement of, this is who should be president of the United States. And frankly, the other two parties just didn't put up anybody qualified this time.
I mean, it goes even a step further than that, because you'd mentioned, Hillary Clinton's not very good with email. Well, there was a story that Donald Trump basically orchestrated today by turning one of his press conferences into a circus, as he normally does, where he had jokingly mentioned that if Russia had the 30,000 emails that she had misplaced, to ask them to please release them. And then went on to make some other snide comment about how he hoped they would keep digging into the situation or whatever the case may be. I've never heard someone running for office, especially the office of the President of the United States, encouraging a foreign body to continue to dig into our personal affairs. That disturbs me. And what disturbs me about it is the same thing that I've been pointing out to folks on Twitter all day. If it had been Barack Obama that had said this thing, everybody that is on the right side of the aisle would be calling for his head for treason. But since Trump did it, when I brought up the fact that, I've never heard anybody do this and this is not a good thing to do, all of a sudden I need to develop a sense of humor. When everybody knows that if this was the other side of the aisle doing it, they would have had a fit and the other side of the aisle would have been defending it. That's one of the things that I'm completely tired of seeing this in this country, is a double standard. And and some of your other comments about voting the part, or not the party, but the principles or the person, it reminds me of George Washington's original warning about developing a party system. We honestly probably didn't ever need a party system in this country. What we needed to be able to do is do exactly what you're talking about doing, put the best people forward available to try out for the job and pick the one that we think can do the best job. And I may not agree with everything that Gary Johnson says, and there are things that I don't agree with any candidate, but I do believe that he is the most qualified in this election cycle, so he does have my vote, and that's not only for that reason, but also because I'm trying to make sure that the Libertarian Party stays on the ballot in Oklahoma. But I can't actually envision myself ever voting for either one of the other two parties' candidates right now. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten to a point where, you've got the Republican nominee calling for the Russians to spy on email, and the Democratic nominee supports the NSA spying on email while she can't protect her own. And it's only Governor Johnson who wants you to have your privacy. Doesn't want anybody hacking into your emails. How about we just, leave people's emails alone? It's just so crazy what, I don't get how they think that there's a winning strategy in basically giving the finger to the American people. I mean, at the end of the Republican nominee's speech at the National Convention in Cleveland, they played the Rolling Stones' "You Can't Always Get What You Want," which was basically just a giant F-you to all those delegates who wanted to vote their conscience. Like, you're stuck with me.
Double single,
if you look
double
at
single
what
full
happened
throttle.
at the Democratic convention, the party chair who had rigged the nomination for that corporate shill got caught and had to resign in disgrace. And the first thing that she was assigned to do is be the honorary chairman of the nominee's campaign. So basically you rig the game and you win a fun prize of being the chairman of the nominee. It's like, how much bigger of an FU can you give to all of the supporters of Senator Sanders? The lady who cheated and stole the election from your candidate, I'm going to put her in charge as the honorary chair of my campaign. It's just so incredibly tone deaf, and it feeds right back into, the more critiques they get for being arrogant and untrustworthy and just generally not nice people, the more they get into doing all this stuff. And then you've got, Governor Johnson, who's just talking about all the things that he wants to do to help make America a freer country and, help fight for our independence again. That fight never ends. And it's just such a stark contrast. And I don't understand. Honestly, it used to be the joke was people would ask, how can you vote for the Libertarian? Nowadays, I ask people, how could you vote for anyone else? How do you sleep with yourself at night?
All right, so being the head of the Libertarian Party, just in case some folks are just now starting to peek their head out, take a look around and go, what have we gotten ourselves into? What are some of the things that, as far as his stances or his positions, that you think differentiate the Libertarian candidate from the Democratic and Republican candidates?
The biggest one that people kind of forget about is this idea of how we should use the American military. We have a military in this country to protect us as a national defense mechanism. And administrations of both of the old parties for decades now have thought that it's appropriate to send our sons and daughters, our brothers and sisters, our fathers and mothers overseas to fight in other countries' civil wars, to make enemies abroad and come home in boxes, for oil or to try and play some sort of weird Game of Thrones. And it's only the Libertarian candidate and the Libertarian Party that has been consistent in pushing for this idea that, national defense doesn't mean national offense. Other countries need to defend themselves. Other countries need to work out their own civil wars. We need to maintain our military to protect us, but we should be sending, goods and services overseas. We shouldn't be sending drones and soldiers. And that's something that's really been lost, and that's something that I think a lot of the supporters of Senator Sanders, if they take a good, honest look at Gary Johnson, will realize that those issues that he was bringing up with the nomination of, the Democratic nominee, those issues are dead in that party. And if they really want to have a voice for that kind of, message of peace, Gary Johnson's the only guy to do it.
No, I completely agree. And at this point, as I get a little bit older, I am looking at some of the ways that our military has been used abroad, and I do have issues with a lot of it. I guess my biggest thing with the military, because I have friends who are in the Libertarian Party that are leaning a lot more towards the anarchist side of things, where they basically are just like, we don't need to be the world police force. And while I agree with that, I think the thing that always scares me about that, and maybe this is just, remember, I've been conservative most of my life, so I'm just waking up to some of this stuff. But my biggest thing with all of that is the whole fact of the matter is I wish we weren't the world police, but at some point somebody decades ago made that decision well before I was ever alive. And now that we are, what happens when we pull back? I understand that we want countries to learn to stand on their own, but the issue with that is nature abhors a vacuum, and so does politics. Look at what's happened in a lot of the ways that Obama has caused us to pull back in a lot of ways, and it's created a mess and tension all over the world. So, I understand the wanting to limit what we do, but at the same time, I'm honestly afraid that bed's already kind of been made, so I'm not sure how to undo that. I'm just wondering if for folks that are kind of feeling the same way I am about it, do you have any idea how we could undo that mess since it's been going on for so long? I mean, did we just pull back cold turkey, or
one step at a time? I mean, we didn't end up with over 100 bases overseas overnight, and we're not going to close over 100 bases overseas overnight. But we're going to start. You know, the Senator Kerry said it best during the Vietnam era, when people were making kind of the same argument you're talking about why we can't leave Vietnam, why we can't pull back out of Vietnam, and just ask the straight question of, how do you ask a man to be the last man to go die for a mistake? I mean, if it's wrong to be there, you know, why would you have a 1 year or a 2 year, or, you know, in the case of Iraq, we had like a 4-year plan for withdrawal, which then didn't actually end up executing. But what do you say to the families of all those soldiers that died in that time? You know, we know that we're not supposed to be there. We know it's not a good idea. We know what we've done isn't working and it's a mistake. But your son died because we didn't want to, you know, act hastily. We just wanted to make sure we did this real slow. You know, obviously you can't do everything overnight, but the first step is acknowledging that that decision that was made before you were born has not turned out to be a good decision. We haven't had positive effects on the world. You know, every time we get involved, when we get involved in Syria, we arm the, quote, good we bought them. You know, we have a long history of not being very good at meddling in other countries' affairs. And the first step is to say, look, you know, this isn't something to be doing. Hang out with him. He's one of the most thoughtful guys you'll ever meet. You know, he'll sit and listen to your ideas or your proposal, and he won't give you a flip answer. He won't just, you know, throw a soundbite at you. He'll actually think about it, and he'll ask you questions about, you know, how would that work? You know, what are the costs going to be? And one of the bills he talks about vetoing in New Mexico, there was some bill that said, you know, pet stores are required by law to exercise their pets, you know, a certain number of hours every week. They have to exercise the pets, the puppies, the dogs, and the cats. And he vetoed it. And he said in the veto message, he said, look, you know, this is a great idea. I would buy my pet from a store that exercises their pets. That's a humane thing to do. It probably makes for healthier, happier pets. It's a really good idea. But if I sign this bill, not too far in the future, I'm going to have the Department of Pet Exercise Enforcement. It's going to be guys going out with guns who are going to enforce the law to make sure that you have to exercise your pets. And that's just not a good use of government. And so there are a lot of things that if there was no cost, everybody would do. Right? If everything was free, you'd do anything you wanted. If it was free, we could be the policeman of the world, but it's not free. Cost is in people's lives. And what we're doing with it has not been very effective. We're making more enemies than we're making friends. We're propping up dictators, and honestly, we're not even able to topple the people that the CIA is trying to topple. You know, you look at the Syria thing, that's just been a mess. So we're spending millions of dollars and people's lives, and then we're also not getting anything done. I mean, I can't think of a government program that's more failed than foreign intervention, and, you know, maybe the racist war on drugs. That one's pretty bad too.
Yeah, I have to admit the war on drugs. The more I've gotten involved in that, and the more I've looked at what's been going on behind the scenes, especially with the rise in civil asset forfeiture and everything else that's kind of sprung out of that. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be completely honest here. I am not for full legalization. I'm not, but I don't have an issue with legalizing some of the stuff that they can basically scientifically prove isn't addicting. Things like marijuana, things like that. I'm not so sure I would ever support full legalization, but I wouldn't stand in the way of it if that was where the country decided they wanted to go, because it's not my job to hold my beliefs over. I think that's one of the things that started pushing me more and more towards the Libertarian Party, because it's a lot of the same thing, because there are a lot of libertarians that think in a lot of ways exactly the same way that I do, but the difference is they don't want the government regulating those thoughts for everybody else. And that's kind of where I am, because I will tell you, and everybody else, I am specifically myself personally against abortion. I think that if nothing else, it should go back to the way the law originally intended, which was safe, legal, and rare, because I understand now the genie's out of the bottle. I don't want anything going back to scared women in dark alleys with coat hangers. Nobody wants that. But what I don't want, and that's just me, is Planned Parenthood on every corner. And I know it's not that bad yet, but in some cities it's getting kind of close. But at the same time, I'm not going to be the one sitting back telling everybody you shouldn't do this, because that's not my place. Even if that is my personal belief, I don't expect everyone else to hold the same beliefs that I do. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have in the two-party system anymore, is no matter which side of the aisle that you're on, they expect you to carry the water for 100% of whatever they're talking about, or you're not a member of the party anymore. I have been called a traitor to the Republican Party for months, even before I left, because I wouldn't carry the water for Trump. I just don't understand how we've gotten to the point where now not agreeing 100% of the time is now considered dissension, and you're marked a traitor and you're done, and etc. But if you go along, then you're great, best thing since sliced bread. I mean, we used to have a country where we were allowed to disagree. I'm not sure when that changed.
I can tell you exactly when it changed. It changed when the two old parties decided that what they were really trying to do is argue over which bully gets to run your life. The neat thing about disagreeing in the libertarian world is this idea that I can think that you're making really bad choices, but because you and I both agree that we're not going to use the government to tell one another how to live, then even if you think my choices are bad or I think your choices are bad, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, you're allowed to do that. And so it doesn't, libertarian society isn't one where everybody agrees. Trust me, talk to any two libertarians. It's a society where it's okay to disagree, because we're not going to try and use guns and police and laws to tell you how to live. Even if I think you're wrong, I can argue with you and say I think you're wrong. I can, carry picket signs and do protests and organize boycotts and all sorts of other stuff. I just can't use the law to tell you what to do. And when it comes to legalizing all drugs, it's not so much an issue of whether you like was helping a lot of people, wasn't really helping their life. But, it didn't get any better by being locked in a cage. None of them seemed like it was any better now that they couldn't get a job because they had a felony on their record. So a lot of things like that, they may be bad choices, but it's better not to compound the bad choice by spending taxpayer money to lock people in cages and then keep them out of the workforce, not able to
possess them from getting them in the first place. So that was actually pretty well thought out. On that note, we have got to take a break. I didn't realize we had already blown completely through the bottom of the hour. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. I'll be right back with my guest, Nicholas Sarwark, the head of the Libertarian National Convention or the chair of the Libertarian Party. Both of them fit, so take your pick. We'll be right back.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Having a place to go after school will make you a better student. Having an outlet to express yourself will make you a better artist. Having something to do together will make you a better family. At The Y, we're helping build better friends, listeners, writers, swimmers, scientists, and musicians, one chance at a time. Give the gift of opportunity. Support The Y at ymca.net. The Y, for a better us.
right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson, and again, I am joined by Nicholas Sarwark, the head of the Libertarian National Convention, and we have been kind of all over the map today, basically talking about the primary differences between the Libertarians and everybody else. Also, a lot of the happenings with the movement and the Libertarian Party growing, especially since the recent debacle in Cleveland. Now, one thing I wanted to do a little bit differently, because we kind of did this in a hurry last week, because last time you were on, because I realized we didn't really do it until almost the end. In case anyone is interested in finding more out about the Libertarian Party, ways they can help, ways they can donate, things like that, where should they go?
They should go to lp.org, just L and P for libertarianparty.org, and check us out on Facebook and Twitter and all over social media. But lp.org is the place to get connected with your state party, to help donate for the ballot access fight, to find out more about our issues, see press releases and things like that. And if they're interested in getting involved in the presidential campaign, johnsonweld.com is the website. Or you can just Google Gary Johnson and pop right up.
All right, folks, so if you, like me, are disgusted by the politics of the day and you're looking for an alternative, I have to say right now the Libertarian Party's kind of a beacon in a storm, because everywhere else they're acting completely crazy. And you know they are, because they're dominating the news cycle, so much so that you're not hearing about the fact that Republicans are actually leaving the party and changing registration to Libertarian, all of the other things that are happening. And at this point, when we were talking before we went on there, you said some of the one of the last polls that you had seen showed Gary Johnson at 12%. Now, if I understand this, and I want people that listen to this show to understand this, you said that in order for him to be on the debate stage, he has to get how much again?
So we'll step back a little minute and set the stage.
Sure.
So there's a commission on presidential debates, which is basically a collusion between the two old parties. The chairpersons of the Commission on Presidential Debates for many years have been former DNC and RNC chairs. And their job is to make sure that there aren't any other voices on the stage. That, you pick either red or blue, you pick, chicken or fish. And the way they do that is they set these arbitrary limits on who's allowed to get on the stage. So what they've said is, you have to get 15% in 5 polls. They don't tell you ahead of time which polls. They pick them themselves. And, they may pick polls that actually include Governor Johnson. They may not pick polls that include Governor Johnson. But you have to get 15% in those. Otherwise, they won't let you on the stage. And they'll continue on with their bipartisan campaign commercial. So right now, Johnson is polling really well. We've got the latest CNN poll had him at 13% nationally. State polls have him anywhere from 10 to 16% across the whole state. Representative Mia Love, Congresswoman from Utah, did an internal poll in her congressional district that had the Republican nominee at 29%, the Democratic nominee at 27%, and Gary Johnson at 26%. So at least in that district in Utah, we're only 3 points back. So once we stabilize the polling, between 15 and 20%, eventually they just can't ignore us anymore. And that's one of the biggest things that we're doing right now is just getting name recognition, getting people to know who Gary Johnson is, to realize that you have an actual qualified candidate running for president. And we have a plan to be on the ballot in all 50 states in the District of Columbia. So every single American will have a sane, competent adult choice, along with, the two bullies. And if people just start, giving that answer when the pollsters call and say, look, I'm voting for Gary Johnson, then that'll bump our poll numbers. That'll put him on the national stage. Once we're in the presidential debates, man, all bets are off. Once all of America sees, hey, look, there's like a competent guy running against those two bullies, I think we'll see a lot of momentum.
Well, I certainly hope so, because at this point, like I said, I can't stomach seeing either one of them in the White House. It's actually gotten so bad that I've started making fun of them on Twitter by making up silly movie titles to kind of encompass this election cycle. I've actually had two of them recently. One of them was Coming to You This January, A Nightmare in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, because no matter which one of these two idiots win, America loses. And then the other one was actually inspired by the news today, where Donald Trump, of course, chose a press conference to make fun of the fact that the Democrats were saying that the Russians leaked Hillary's email, and basically he said, well, if they did, then have them release her 300,000 missing emails, and they should keep snooping. So, of course, he's all like, yeah, Russia, keep doing what you're doing. And Mike Pence is somewhere else going, they better not have been the ones that have done that. So in honor of that little disagreement at the top of the ticket today, I kind of had this epiphany moment where I was like, Coming to You This January, if Trump is elected president, The Odd Couple, the DC edition. Because those two can't seem to be getting on the same page recently. So it actually was popular enough that...
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. You know, that people complain about the Republican nominee doesn't want to release his tax returns, and the Democratic nominee doesn't want to release her speeches. You know, I think they should just offer them in a box set, use the proceeds to pay down the national debt, and, don't elect either of them. But definitely, they provide a lot of comedy writers a lot of good work. You know, my theory on why she doesn't want to release her speeches, I don't think there's anything bad in them, honestly. I think the reason that she doesn't want to release them really comes down to the fact that there's probably nothing in them much at all. You know, they're probably boring, mind-numbing speeches that no one wants to hear, which makes it really clear that she got $650,000 not because she's a good speaker, but because people are buying, political influence, because she's basically bought and paid for it. And then as far as his tax returns, shady businessman going to shady businessman. Of course he doesn't want you to see his tax returns. That's pretty basic stuff. But the idea that people would try and force Americans, Americans of all people, Declaration of Independence kind of Americans, like, hey, let's overthrow the British Americans and tell them, look, you got to take one of these terrible choices. You have to pick which bully you want in charge of your life for 4 years. Honestly, I hope that get a little bit of that American spirit back and basically say, no, F you. I'm not doing that. I'm going to vote for who I think is most qualified for president. And, tough. That's basically, Drew Carey said that in an interview after, or at that fundraiser at his house in LA this last weekend, basically said, obviously he's a radio, so I can't talk like Drew Carey because he's a Marine. They said, I don't give a, if your person doesn't get enough votes, you lose. I don't want to hear it. There are more than two choices. You're allowed to vote for whoever you want. This is America. If you can't get the votes to win, then tough.
No, and
that's Drew Carey.
Yeah. Actually, I was kind of impressed earlier when you'd mentioned that you were hanging out at Drew Carey's house. I was kind of jealous, but that's okay.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, it was pretty wild. There were all sorts of people there. Chris Novoselic, one of the two surviving members of Nirvana, was there hanging out. And my wife and I were flying back from L.A., and we're sitting in the restaurant, at the airport, and we're watching a Nirvana video, and we're like, how weird is this that he's up on the screen and we were hanging out with him 12 hours ago?
Dude, that would have been
definitely
surreal,
appealing to a lot of cool people. And I think that, that's going to be where a lot of the momentum comes from, is it becomes okay to do something. In sales, there's this concept of social proof. You don't want to be the first one to buy an iPhone or, try the new Apple Watch or whatever it is. You don't want to be the first guy to do that. But if people like you are doing it already, then now it's okay. Right, you've seen that your friends, people that, look like you, act like you, have the same lifestyle, they're doing it. It's okay. And that's the point that we're really at with this whole libertarian thing and with the Gary Johnson thing. If people are seeing normal, sane friends and family who, they respect and like, we're coming out of the closet, basically, and saying, look, I think the Libertarians make the most sense. I think Gary Johnson makes the most sense. And they're taking a second look because now they're seeing people who look like them, who act like them, who are like them, who are throwing away this binary choice of, Tweedledee or Tweedledum, bully A or bully B. We want somebody who recognizes that government shouldn't be all powerful. People, create more jobs than the government does. So I think it's an awesome time, man. It's being the chairman of the Libertarian Party right now is probably the best time to ever have this position, and I am so lucky to have it.
I was going to say, you've got to feel pretty honored to be where you are right now, because you're kind of watching history unfold. I mean, because I've never, ever in my lifetime seen the vast majority of the American populace being dissatisfied with both major parties. So this is a good time to be the third-party guys that have been over here all along saying, hey, we keep telling you there are other choices, and you keep ignoring us, but we're still over here. Because, I mean, that is honestly what I run into all the time. And I don't know if it's just conditioning or if people just really don't understand how our elections truly work. I mean, I get told every day that if I don't vote for Trump, then I'm voting for Hillary, or if I don't vote for Hillary, I'm voting for Trump. First of all, that proves to me that a lot of these people don't even understand how our electoral system works, because I'm in the reddest red state possible. My one vote for Gary Johnson is not going to turn the state blue or yellow. Now, if enough of us vote for him, then you never know. Our 7 electoral votes may go to him, but even if they do, we only have 7 votes, folks. We're talking a drop in the bucket here.
People, one of the awesome things, honestly, about being chairman of the Libertarian Party, we had a national convention over Memorial Day weekend with close to 1,000 delegates in the room, and everything went super smoothly. And, both of the old party conventions have been an utter cluster. And it just makes me feel a little proud, I actually offered Reince Priebus for a mere $10,000 donation to Libertarian National Committee. I would give him some lessons on how to, run a smooth convention without, cutting off the mic of a sitting U.S. Senator from Utah, or being booted down. He didn't take me up on it, but he ought to.
Oh, big surprise. And the scary thing is the other convention's not really going any smoother. That in and of itself...
He resigns on Friday.
Yeah, that in and of itself just proves that we are watching history in the making, because I never in a million years would have thought that I have seen what I've seen at these other 2 conventions. I have to admit, I didn't really see much of yours, but I did hear about it. One of our hosts was there covering it, and she was impressed. I think the biggest thing that kind of weird. I'm sorry?
I said everything went really good. It was historic.
Yeah, I think the only thing that kind of threw her off was, I guess there was some other Comic-Con convention there, and she had wandered her way into that for a minute, and she was like, I don't think I'm in the right place anymore. At least I hope not.
Hopefully she had some fun.
Oh, yeah. She came back talking to everybody about it. I mean, she was impressed with the whole thing. I think the thing that she was most impressed about was even after Austin Peterson didn't get the nomination, he agreed to sit down and did a 30-minute interview with her, when everybody knows that in the other 2 parties, if you didn't get the nomination, you just stormed off screaming and crying and said life's not fair and etc. But yeah.
We're a little more mature in the Libertarian Party.
All right, sir. Well, believe it or not, we are nearly out of time. Why don't we again go ahead and remind folks where it is that they can interact with you, should they choose to do so, as far as, if you have a Twitter feed, Facebook page, those type of things, and then remind them again where they can go to find out more about the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, so if you want to find out more about the Libertarian Party, it's lp.org. If you want to interact with me on Facebook, if you search for Nicholas Sarwark, Sarwark, I have an official page. It's got the little blue Facebook check mark for a verified page, so go and follow that. That's where all my political stuff is. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm @nsarwark. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm @nsarwark. if you want to follow me on Snapchat, I am at Sarwark. It's good to have a unique last name because I get the same username everywhere. But definitely, reach out, get involved. Let me know, what questions I can answer. I'm probably the most accessible National Party chair that you'll ever find.
I can attest to that.
I hope people get involved.
All right. So, actually, quick point. So, you have a verified Facebook account? I didn't even know they were doing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got a blue check mark. Shortly after the national convention, I think, all the news coverage raised my profile enough that Facebook finally gave me the blue check mark, and I get the magical Facebook Mentions app, which you can only download if you have a verified page. So it's a pretty big deal.
You elitist, you. You elitist, you.
Twitter still hasn't verified me yet, but that's a weirder process because you can't ask for it. They have to just kind of decide that they want to verify you.
Yeah, I've heard some interesting things about the Twitter verification process. And honestly, I didn't even know Facebook did a verification process. That's why I was like, wait, you have a check mark? I didn't even know they did that. But
yeah, I've got an official politician page. So they will give those check marks out with enough prodding.
Nice. So in other words, I'm just not being cranky enough, I guess.
Yeah, it took a long time. I kept trying to convince them, I'm really chairman of a national political party, for real. And eventually they got around to it, and it's helpful. It definitely, it tells people this is a real thing, and that's really, that's where we're at right now. Is this is a political party organized in all 50 states in the District of Columbia. We're going to have ballot access in all 50 states in the District of Columbia. I never use the M word when I talk about the old parties, because honestly, the only difference between them and us is that they've been around longer, which just means they're going to die quicker.
All right. Well, on that note, folks, we are out. Again, I do want to thank my guest, Nicholas Sarwark, for hanging out for the entire show. I'll be back with you live tomorrow night, an hour earlier for the Jen and Rick show, and back here Friday night. And again, don't forget to check us out on iTunes, iHeart, and various internet and terrestrial affiliates around the globe. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. I'll see you when I see you. God bless.
Everything you earn by breaking your backs, we're gonna redistribute when we make our pay tax. Hey, sit down.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.